screen from. I do want to take this opportunity to introduce you to Dr. Lin, who is going to talk to you about his paper, which is entitled "In Studying Corporate Innovation." Lin comes to us from Boston College, and he has 2 economics degrees, one at the undergraduate level and one at the master's level. So he has an economics background, and he has an entrepreneurship area in his PhD program. So, Tom,
Okay.
you are faculty.
Thanks for inviting me here. This is my first time to the city of Lobo, so I really enjoy it. Also, the weather is a little bit rainy, but I enjoy it. I think it's better than Boston. So. The paper I'll be presenting today is Government Spending and Corporate Innovation. So the motivation for this paper is as follows. So innovations are very important drivers of economic growth. What drives innovation has been documented at the macroeconomic level very extensively, such as like firm and industry characteristics, the corporate governance of firms, the economic as well as the stock market environment the firm operates in. However, relevant work has been done about the relationship between corporate innovation and macroeconomic factors, such as government spending. So one major obstacle to researching in this regard is the potential endogeneity of government spending due to its relation to the level of economic development in that state. So, Koval et al. 2011 paper, in this study, how increases in government spending affect the corporate investment and R&D expenditure. So they found that an increase in government spending in a state reduces capital expenditure and R&D investment by firms in that state. While this study how government spending affects innovation input as measured by R&D expenditure, they do not study the effect of government spending on innovation output as measured by patents and citations. This is where this paper fits in. So what did I do in this paper? So I use, sure.
We jump in with a quick,
Yeah.
what is their explanation for why capital expenditure tends to go down?
Yeah, the explanation they offer in the paper is the labor-leisure trade-off. So when there's more money going to that state, then the individual in that state they becomes more wealthier, so they don't work as hard as before. So that's their argument. I will test that here, but I don't find support for that one. So I find it's a little bit like a little bit strange to explain the whole findings. So. So what do I do in this paper? So I use the NVER patent database and the Harvard Business School inventor database to analyze the relation between increases in government spending and corporate innovation. So I use the number of patents and total citations as measures of innovation output. So after establish the impact of government spending on corporate innovation, I go on to test 3 different hypotheses regarding the possible channels through which government spending may affect innovation. The first one is the one that I found supportful. The first one is the resource reallocation by corporations and individuals from innovative to non-innovative activities. The second one is the movement of innovative activities from the corporate to the government sector. The last one is actually the explanation offered by Cohen et al. They argue the reduction in innovation productivity due to a labor-leisure trade-off on the part of inventors. So this paper is mainly related to 3 different strands of literature. The first one is, there are like 2 papers here. They study the innovation behavior of the actual government procurement contract or grant recipient. So they found like when a company receives government procurement contract or grant, their innovation goes up. So the second one is the finance and the other firm characteristics affecting innovation. So there are like a whole lot of papers here. So the list here is not exhaustive at all. So the last one is the relationship between the public R&D expenditure and the private R&D spending. So in this, it's mainly in economics. So in this strand, I don't think there's any consensus here. So, I think the first one they found like that it's complementary. The second one they found is totally a substitute. So the bottom line here is no paper so far in the literature directly analyze the effect of government spending increase in the state on the innovation output in that state. So I talked about like 3 different channels. So the first channel, so here I will elaborate on like each of these 3 different channels and why it works. So the first one is like the resource reallocation from innovation to innovative to non-innovative activities. So the argument is increases in government spending may lead to increased demand in some sector in that state. So in response to it, then corporations may reallocate resources from innovative to non-innovative activities. So the rationale here is like firms' opportunity cost for investing in innovation rather than spending on production of output are higher and demand is higher. So there are a lot of economic papers they document the innovation should be concentrated in the recession. So the second point is the inventors or potential inventors may also be reallocated from innovative to non-innovative activities, either by companies or on their own. So this is the channel I found support for. The second channel is the movement of innovative activity from the corporate to the government sector. So the reason is that the increase in government spending may lead to greater government sector innovation output, which may replace some corporate sector innovation. So that's the second one. The third one is the labor trade-off. So this is also argued by Cohen et al. So they found they think like increased resources from the federal government to state may cause individuals in that state to become wealthier and therefore to consume more and work less. So this may reduce the productivity of intellectual capital and therefore of R&D investment. If you think the production functions like capital and labor, so if the labor is not as productive as before, then the rational response for companies to reduce their capital input. So then that induces some firms to cut back R&D expenditures. So,
Sorry.
sure, go ahead. Yes.
So here, what do you mean by government spending? Do you just look at the general government spending or some specific government
I think it's a general government spending. So, well, in a couple of slides, I'll show you like how I measured that. Okay. So the summary of findings here, the first I found firms headquartered in states that experience a positive government spending shock significantly reduce their innovation output. So specifically, following a positive government spending shock, the number of patents is reduced by 5 to 7% for firms headquartered in this state. And when I use the total citations as the measure for the innovation output, I found the total citations are reduced by 10 to 14%. That's the firm level result. So when I aggregate everything to the state as a whole, so I found the total innovation output is reduced significantly following a government spending shock. So the total number of patents in the state reduces by 6.8% following a positive government spending shock. So then for the channels, this is the resource reallocation channel. This is what I found support for. So the first piece of result is like with the HBS inventor database, I found the number of inventors falls in the corporate sector. Moreover, it is the decline in the number of new hires that drives the reduction in the overall reduction in the number of inventors. So second, from the inventor level regression, I found even at the individual level, the existing inventors produce fewer patents following an increase in government spending. And third, at the firm level, I found R&D expenditure declines while sales growth are already increasing. The next piece of result is the reduction in innovation is mainly concentrated in industries that need more labor input for innovative activities and in states with low employment rates. So, moreover, I found innovatives are more likely to work as entrepreneurs. So, in some sense, they are not producing innovations they are trying to implement now. So, and lastly, I found the wages increase for the educated individuals who are more likely to engage in innovation. So to test the second channel, the movement of innovative activities from the corporate to the government sector. What I do here, I break down the patents based on their assignee types. A patent can be assigned to a government agency like NASA, NIH. It can also be assigned to corporate. It can also be assigned to university. So what I do here is I break down the patent into the government, the corporate, and the research institute. So I found there is an increase in the number of patents in the government sector. But the movement of, first of all, the magnitude is very small. Second, the movement of inventors from the corporate to the government sector is rather negligible, actually. So, it's too small to explain the reduction in the innovation in the corporate sector. So lastly, the labor issue trade-off. So to test this, I make use of the PSID data, that's panel study of income dynamics. So they provide survey data on the number of hours like each person works for, within the past year. So then I can directly test whether individuals they work less hard than before or they don't. So I found the number of hours worked by employees in the state with college degree or higher does not fall. So I don't find the labor leader trade-off. So then the second piece of result is in the context of innovation. So if the labor leader actually works, then there are two implications. The first is the patent quality should be lower than before. And second is the patent per R&D dollar, it's called innovative efficiency, should be lower than before. So for those two, I have found those two do not change significantly upon a government spending shock. So, which indicates that there is no reduction in the productivity of R&D investment. Go ahead. Yeah.
Your paper is focused on the company headquarters in the States, and then you look at government spending. So I'm wondering, how does, if a company they outsource their R&D instead of putting their headquarters, how does that impact your result?
Absolutely. So I think I did two things. The first thing is I think how 1991 paper they said, I think they document most of the R&D activity for firms that happened in the headquarters state. I think 70 to 80%. Second, for the innovation measured by patent, you can actually observe where the patent is produced by the inventor. If the inventor is located in Kentucky, then the patent is counted in Kentucky. So they probably a firm, they operate in different states. So they only focus on the patent that they generate within Kentucky, which is the firm's headquarters.
Right. Because I was thinking a lot of companies, especially public company, for example, the Brown-Forman, they have a lot of patents, but they do not necessarily have to generate that patent within the state of Kentucky. They can acquire patents by different ways, by different channels.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think at least what I did, the second part of what I did is I only focused on the patent that is generated within the headquarters state. Probably they generated some other patent in let's see Indiana or in Ohio. I don't count those. I only counted
Right.
Yeah.
You need to think about the picture, especially for some public company. They want to have a global planning.
Yeah.
Instead of looking at what we do for my city, my state, if I want to have a 10 years, 50 years long horizon, I probably look at it as a global market. So if I have everything, just to put everything in Louisville, I can stretch out.
Yeah, I know. But the point is at least in your headquarters state, you reduce your patent your innovations. Probably in other states that doesn't experience the government spending shock, you actually increase the patent output. Sure.
So if you think about a company like Procter & Gamble, the headquarters in Cincinnati, Ohio, Illinois.
Yeah.
So is the patent stuff that comes out of Gillette, is that attributable to, your state?
Yes.
Massachusetts?
Yeah.
Because that's clearly where they do the R&D, they don't do it in, it's just, how do companies that are
Yeah. Yeah, they
put together
Yeah.
in different locations, how does the data?
well, they may like, reallocate like between the whole headquarters state or like some other states. But I didn't look at that here in the paper. I only focus on what happened in the headquarters states. And that's the company level. And for the overall state level, I look at the overall patent generated within the state, regardless if it like belongs to a company or individual universities. Yeah.
And maybe you could, just because a company is, there are companies that are headquartered in certain cities and states that are just shells.
Yeah.
They'll have 10 people there, and that's
Yeah.
their entire operation.
Boeing.
Boeing, yeah,
They're in Chicago.
Yeah.
They're headquartered in Chicago.
but there are several. Brinks was like that in Richmond, Virginia, 5
Yeah.
people there, so. But maybe instead of looking at where the company's headquartered, if
Yeah.
you could break down each company to see that Boeing has 50,000 employees in Washington and so many in
Yeah.
each state,
Yeah,
and
that's
somehow looked at, because that's where the innovative activities coming out of, is that they have employees.
Yeah, I'm trying to get that data. I think now these they count like how many times a state shows up in their like a 10K file. Then they try to categorize like some firms like most of their productivity or production is within one state versus the other. So that I was trying to get that data, so I haven't got the chance. Okay, sure.
I'm sorry, I haven't had a chance to read your paper, but I was wondering, what is the lead lag trade-off between government spending and your measuring this?
I think probably it's like 2 years.
So it's a 2-year window afterwards?
Yeah, I look at I like 1 year, then I show you a dynamic figure. I think the most of the effect comes from like 2, 3, 4, 5 years. Yeah, so when I get the figure, probably you have a better picture of what I'm doing. So sure.
This might be a multiple part question, it just depends how the
Yeah,
answer
sure,
first.
sure. Yeah.
How do you define a spending job?
Yeah, I'll get that right now. So.
Okay.
I think should just slide. Probably next. I think the next slide is how I define the shop. So this is in terms of contribution rates paper. This is the first paper in the literature to analyze the effect of an increase in government spending in a state on innovation operating in that state, and then also the first paper to analyze the channels to which an increase in government spending may affect innovation output. So contrary to a conjecture by Cohen et al., I showed that there is no significant reduction in the productivity of corporate R&D expenditure, so following increase in government spending. So rather, I found the main driver of the reduction in corporate innovation output is the reallocation of resources from innovative to non-innovative activities by corporations and individuals. So my results shed light on an important effect of government spending that has been little explored in the literature before. So this is how I define the government spending shock. So as I said at the beginning of the presentation, the major obstacle of research in this regard is the government spending is potentially endogenously determined by economic conditions. To address this issue, I use the turnover of the powerful Senate committee chairmen to generate exogenous variation in government spending. So for this to hold, there are 2 reasons. The first one is it's well known like powerful centers. They bring funds from the federal government to their home state. So second, so the chairmanship is almost entirely determined by seniority. So then the turnover can only result from resignation or defeat or change in the party controlling the Senate. So then the accession of the senator to a chairmanship position mostly depends on the economic conditions of the other state, not his home state. So then the federal funds brought in by committee chairman are plausibly independent of their home state's economic conditions. So this is how when I run regressions, I just use this shock. This is sort of how I measure the government spending shock.
So You weren't actually measuring dollars.
But,
You weren't measuring the spending shock in dollars.
no.
You were measuring it
By a dummy variable, actually, so whether, he's a chairman or not. Then I'll show you whether, this chairman turnover is actually associated with more government spending or not, in the first place. So the definition of the senator shock is a dummy variable that equals to 1 as long as the senator from given state is the chairman of the powerful committee, the Senate committee. Then when the senator becomes the chairman of the top committee, then the shock is turned on. It remains on until the senator leaves the chairmanship. So then I use 3 different definition of shocks based on the turnover in the chairmanship of different committees. The top 3 chair, top 5 chair, top 10 chair. So, yeah.
Could you help me understand your theory behind the paper?
Yes.
Because you did not find the recommending in the labor market. It shocks, so it's a theory behind
When I get to the channel part, I will elaborate on that. I think it's when there is more high demand in the state, then you need to trade off whether you want to do the long-term investment or you want to do like a short-term investment. You just capture the profit, right? So then that's what I said. Like the opportunity cost for firms to do long-term investment when the demand is high, is higher. Yeah. So then, what are the top 10 committees in the Senate? This is these 10 committees are identified by the political science literature. So the way they do that is like I think they look at what way a senator has discretion to choose which committee to sit on. They choose one over the other. So that's the way they identify those top 10. So the top 10, this is the impact order. So the finance is the first, environmental affairs the second, then appropriations the third. So that's the top 10 committees. So then to broaden the set of shocks, I also include the ranking members of the shock in the robustness test. It's like top 3 chair and ranking member. So then for falsification test, I use a variable that is turned on in the 6 years preceding the chairman appointment. So to see whether the effect is concentrated in the years when he's the chairman, or you observe like some pretrend before he's even in the office.
So do the chairs of this committee, do they chair more than one committee at any one point in time?
They can't do that. It's
They
like
cannot
they
do that.
can only chair one.
Okay.
Yeah. So I also studied the effect of Senate committee chairman relinquishment. It's like, go ahead.
I'm not familiar with this literature, but can you provide some justification? Why do you do this definition this way?
Mm-hmm.
Do you follow certain literature with what's the
The definition of of using the same committee shop.
The proxy shop, the spending shop.
Oh, the spending. So I will show you like this is actually associated with more spending. So I will show you like with like a table. It's like when they become the chairman, they bring more funds to the states. And second, I think it's already identified in the economic literature. This is like positively related to government spending. Yeah. Sure.
Is there a possibility the coalition will run the other way, that the government will spend more to the state? It's more likely to have more innovations. You contribute for the endogenous economy.
Yeah, but the enlarged data here is addressed by the turnover Senate committee shock. It's a Senate committee because it has nothing to do with what happened in that state. It's like if you want to become chairman, now you're ranked number 2. If you want to become chairman, you need the number 1 to be gone. So like either he resigned or he passed.
So you use that as external shock.
Right.
Okay. So that's better than just to do the government.
Right. This is why I didn't run the regression of the number of innovations on the total amount of government spending. That's endogenous, right? So here's like the sample I used, the data I used in the paper. So it's pretty standard data in the literature. So the patent data is from NBER, from HPS for inventor database. Then the earmark data is from Citizen Against Government Waste. Then the overall government spending is from Consolidated Federal Fund Report. And then the individual data is from panel's study of income dynamics. Then the state level investment from CBP, then it's pretty standard. So then I use CompuStat for the financial variables and corporate headquarters. So the resulting sample years, like from 1976 to 2003, I got like 5,800 unique firms and about 83,000 information. Right.
Any particular reason you cut off this 2003?
Yeah, I think the data, the NBR database goes to 2006. So then, in the last 3 years, when you file a patent, probably it's not even granted. So then, there's like a truncation bias there. So, this
from
is.
2006 to 2015, there's no.
No, because the data ends in 2006.
Oh.
Yeah, they compiled the data until 2006. I think in the robustness chapter of my paper, actually, I think Kogan and all, they update the database to like 2010. Then I ran regression from 1976 to 2007 to make sure, it still holds like in the longer period. Yeah, so this is like a standard truncation bias in the innovation literature. So like, for USPTO, if you file a patent, so it will only show up in the database until it's granted. So like you file like this year, probably like 3 years down the road, then you get the grant, you're granted. But then until, in between those 3 years, they will not show up in the database. So that's like, if you plot like the figure, like the number patent from 76 to 2006, you will say in the last 3 years, like a significant drop there. That's like the truncation bias.
Right, because in my mind, I still have a question for you.
Yeah.
Because you're looking at firm year observations.
Yeah.
So for example, for Kentucky State, there are a lot of companies.
Yeah.
And for whatever the company, their headquarters in Kentucky, they're going to have the same amount from that observation. So how does this impact one company differently versus the rest of other companies? Do you understand my question? Because
so like,
state, in
I
Kentucky-
look at the average firm in that state. I'm not going to distinguish like one particular firm versus the other. So I'm looking at like a firm's headquarters in Kentucky versus a firm headquarters in Ohio. That's the comparison here. Yeah. Sure, go ahead.
So on average, how long does it take for a firm to file patent until get it approved?
Until like granted, well, I think it's like average 2 years. Yeah, yeah. Go ahead.
You control for financial crisis here?
No, it's not even until like 2008, so.
Well, 2001 too.
Oh, okay, but this is, if you control like the year fixed factor, then it to this extent, if the price is like hedged like different states in the same way, then that is observed by the year fixed factor, right? It's like if it's like a uniform effect like both Ohio and Kentucky, then that's not an issue here, right? If it affects like Ohio versus Kentucky in a different way, then I control like the state level, like the GDP, the personal income, in those kind of variables. Yeah. Okay, so this is sort of like whether this saying is actually associated with more government spending. So what I do here, so in the first 3 columns, I ran the regressions of the earmark spending at each state to each state on the Senate committee shop, and in the last 3 columns, I ran the overall like discretionary government spending to the state. It's measured by like the total government procurement contract and grant per capita. So as you can see in the first 3 columns, like when they have a senator appointed as one of the top 3 committees, the chairman of one of the top 3 committees, you can see the earmark spending increased by 34%. So in terms of the economic magnitude, I think like in my sample, the citizen against government risk, they identify earmarks like to each state on average is in each state year it's like $200 million. So then it's like 34% is roughly like $60 million. That's not too much. But here we look at the overall government spending to that state. I think in the state years, on average, the state gets I think $6.5 billion dollars in terms of procurement contract and the grant. So the 6.4% increase is about like $420 million. So actually it's pretty big. So this is sort of like the first stage. So I ran like the government spending on the Senate turnover. So in the second stage, what I do here is like I ran the reduced form regression with the number of patent and number of citation as the dependent variable, and regress that on the Senate committee chairmanship shots. So this is like top 3, top 5, top 10. So as you can see, so when a senator is appointed as one of the top 3 committees, the chairman of one of the 3 top committees, the innovation as measured by number of patents is reduced by 7% for firms headquartered in that state. And if measured by citations, it's reduced like even more, it's like 14%. So I think in my sample, on average, the firm file that eventually granted patent like 9.5. So 6% is roughly like 0.6 to 0.7 patent. Sure.
So from there, if you find the top 5 shares less than median and top 3 top 10,
Oh, in top 5 and top 10 here. Well, I think it's it's roughly similar. It's roughly similar, and I didn't look at like whether in the like from the number 6 to number 10, I see any effect there. I didn't look at that. Yeah. So then I do.
Did state spending change as a response to additional federal dollars?
I didn't look at that. I didn't look at like whether like the state level spending changes, in response to the federal government spending to that state. I didn't look at that. I don't know whether it would change or not. Yeah. So when I do falsification test, I would do that. So it's a dummy variable that equals to y after 6 years preceding chairman appointment. So then, what in this table, I just look at like focus on the years when they are the chairman. So in this table, what I did is like shift the years, shift the chairmanship like 6 years ahead. 6 years before, to see whether there's any impact there. So you'll see like there's no impact there, and even the magnitude is really tiny. It's like roughly 1%. So this is so from this test, I confirm most of the effect coming from the years when they are in the office. So what I show here is that's the dynamic figure. So this is this number 1 means that's the first year when the senator gets to the office. Second is like the second year, third year, fourth year, fifth year, sixth year. This is like after they relinquish their chairmanship. So as you can see, most effect concentrated from the second year to the 5th year, and then after relinquishing the chairmanship, then it bounces back. Sure.
Back to number
Here.
1 more.
Yeah.
One more as well.
Yeah.
So you got the earmarks,
Yeah.
right? You got
Yeah.
that earmark data.
Yeah.
Right? And you've got, which is your spending,
Yeah.
and you got your Senate shots.
Yeah.
So you go to 16.
Yeah.
Can you run a model where you put in the Senate shocks and the spending?
Yeah, well, I could run a model like put the Senate shop as an instrument for spending, right? That's the.
Here's the thing, is that to me,
Oh, okay.
what's going on in Washington DC, a Senate shock is a Senate shock,
Yeah.
right? It's correlated with spending,
Yeah.
but it isn't spending, right? These are, now maybe I'm wrong, but I'm looking at it as, these
Yeah,
are separate
yeah.
constructs. So
Yeah.
if you put them both in one model,
Yeah, to see whether.
so,
Yeah.
and if you do have some residual left over from the spending,
Yeah.
I should say the Senate shocks that predict this, then that tells you there's something political going on, it's more than money, right? It's more than spending, there's something political, and I don't know the answer to that question. But I'd like to see a model of both of those.
Yeah, I could do that, I think it's a good point. So I think more of that. Go ahead.
So I wanted to follow up on the endogenous issues.
Sure.
So across states, I mean, there may be a number of other factors other than political that also account for innovation output. So if you look at Silicon Valley or regulatory taxation and so on.
Yeah.
So, so I was just wondering how you took care of those factors.
Well, first of all, I don't think like this like a senator turnover is associated with let's say like tax changes or like I don't think it's associated with that.
That's just one, but there's so many other factors that can affect this.
Right, but this senator shock, it has nothing to do with what's going on within the state. It depends on what happens in the other states, right? It's like
In case of the chairs, yeah, but overall.
Yeah, but I'm just looking at the chairs, but it's like if I just ran the regression with the innovation on government spending, then that would be an issue. But I'm just looking at the chairs as a proxy for the overall spending. Yeah.
Within a state.
Yeah. I think here as like when I exclude like Massachusetts or California, the result don't change. So yeah. Okay, so we got here, I think. I think I already finished the slide. So okay, so now I go on to test the 3 different possible channels. So as you asked before, so here is the theory here is like the increase in government spending cost they lead to like a higher aggregate demand. Then firms and individuals in response to that, they shift resources from innovative to non-innovative activities. So the reason is like firms' opportunity cost for investing in innovation rather than spending on production output are higher when the demand is high. So to test this, first I do is like I look at like whether do firms hire fewer inventors, like when the government spending is present. So here this is like the net inflow of inventors to the firm. This is like the new hires. This is like the sort of outgoing inventors. So I found like overall the firms they hire fewer inventors, and when I break down into new hires and outgoing inventors, you find it's the reduction in the new hires that drives the decline in the overall number of inventors. So if then I look at like the individual level. It's like whether each individual inventor they produce fewer patents when more government spending is there. So here it's like the individual level regression. So the observation is like the individual year. So I put here the year fixed patent and the individual fixed patent. And then you find like the individuals they produce fewer patents when more government spending is present. So then if like firms, they actually look at the opportunity cost, innovation versus production, then the prediction is like, their R&D spending should decline, then their production should go up, and then their short-term profit should go up, right? So then I use the R&D over asset ratio as a measure for the R&D expenditure, then use the sales growth as a measure for the production, then use the ROA as a short-term profit. So as what I just said, so what I find is consistent with what I said. It's like the R&D expenditure goes down, then the sales growth goes up, and the short-term profit goes up. So that's sort of like a firm, the reallocate resources. They compare those two to see which one is more profitable. So and then I do some interaction tests. So as I showed at the beginning, the firms, they don't hire as many inventors as before. If they don't hire as many inventors as before, then there are 2 implications. First, it's like the firms that in industries that need more labor input to conduct R&D activities, they are more effective. And second, so the firms headquartered in state with lower employment should be more effective because the labor force is scarce.
Do you control the
industry? Yeah, I control the firm fixed back, then the industry is just absorbed. over the years, like the firms, they are in the same industry. So then the industry factor absorb. Yeah, the thing that, if I control that, you can say you just simply drop out because it's like a broader category than the firm fixed family. So, yeah. So what I do here, first, I impact the government spending shock with the capital intensity dummy. What I mean here is like, capital intensity dummy. So what I look at here is like I think in NSF they have surveyed like at the industry level, like out of the total R&D expenditure, how much is paid to the wages and for the R&D personnel. Then the other part are like the material cost, the equipment cost. So then the capital intensity here is like when the R&D personnel wages over the total R&D expenditure really low, then that's the capital intensity done. Sure.
It's a minor point, but I'm thinking instead of using the unemployment rate, would it be better to use the change in employment in the state or change in unemployment, maybe change in employment in the state from one year to the next, rather than the unemployment rate, because those changes in employment is what's driving changes in the working force in that state. If you are interested in changes in output of the innovative activity. So.
Yeah. Thanks for that. So, I'll sing. So here, as you can see, that most of the negative effect concentrate in industries with lower, capital intensity, with concentrated industries with more, that need more labor input to generate, to produce patent. So the second, you can see like the most effect concentrated in firms headquartered in states with lower employment. So in the last column, I put those two together to see whether whether these two drive out each other. So as you can see here, the top row. So you can see most effect concentrated in firms headquartered in states with low employment and the operating in industries that need more labor input to generate patent. So then, what could those inventors do? If the potential inventors, they don't do innovation anymore, what could they do? So here, what I look at is the innovative entrepreneurship decisions. So in the PSID data, they provide a variable that's they survey individuals. They provide variables like whether you are a self-employed in the past year, then that is used very extensively in the innovation, in the entrepreneurship literature as an indicator for individuals, whether they are entrepreneurs or not. So this is what I do here. So the dependent variable is a dynamic variable. It's like whether they are entrepreneurs or not. Then that's the government spending shock. So then I found like when there's more government spending in the state, then individuals, they are actually more likely to work as entrepreneurs. So then if the individuals, they have like a better outside options. So they don't work as inventors, they work at like entrepreneurs or something else, then their wages should go up. So this is what I test here. It's like just like the individuals, the educated individuals, they are more likely to engage in innovation. So I look at like the individuals with college degree or high. So this is their labor income. This is their wages, annual wages. This is like the hours they're working for money in the past year. So as you can see, their wages go up. So they have better outside options. They don't work. They choose the job, well over the others. Okay, so this is like the overall state level. So as you said, like probably like the company, you look at the company level, it's a little bit, they can operate like across different states. So here what I do is like I aggregate all the patents within the state, regardless of like that of the company. So like it's how many any inventors that reside reside in Kentucky that produce a patent, then it's counted a patent in Kentucky. So this is like a total number of patents produced in a state year. So then I graph this on the standard committee chart. As you can see, you see like a negative like 6.8% decline in the total number of patents. So this is like the number of inventions is similar. So in the last two panels, I look at the overall investment activity in the state as measured by the number of establishment in that state. So this is provided in the CB, County Business Patent Survey data. So you can see the number of establishment goes up, but the number of patent declines. So that's sort of like the evidence I found for the first channel, so the resource reallocation. So then the second channel is like the movement of innovative activities from the corporate to the government sector. So then the rationale here is like the increased government spending, they may lead to greater government sector innovation, which may replace some corporate sector innovations. Like the innovation that could have been produced in the private sector now are being produced in the public sector. So what I do here is like I break down the patent into 3 different categories. This is like the government sector. It's like NASA, NIH goes here. And this is the university. This is the overall corporations, regardless, whether they are publicly listed firms or private firms. So you can see in the government sector there's like a 20% increase. Like even the inventor, there's like a roughly 17% increase. So, but the problem here is like I think in my sample, at a state year level, the number of patents in the government sector is only 25. So the 20% increase is like about 5 patents. But the corporate, the majority is like the corporate innovation. So then if you look at the overall number of patents in the state, it's like 1,400. So 7% decline is like 100 patent decline, but this is only 5 patent increase. So, those two don't offset each other. And moreover, so I also, I already covered it, I think. Moreover, so I look at the inventors, in the inventor database, you can actually track, like each inventor, whether they, move from one entity to another. So there are roughly, 660,000 different inventors that have worked for U.S. public companies. Then out of those, only about 450 inventors that switched from the corporate to the government sector over a 3-year window. What I mean by over a 3-year window here is like when an inventor produces the last patent for a public firm, then I track like 3 years later down the road whether this inventor produced any patent for the government sector. So they're only like 450. So it's broad and negative, right? So then the last channel I tested like the labor leisure trade-off. So then the argument is like inferior resources from federal government makes the individuals more wealthy. Then they don't want to work as hard as before. They just consume more on the slack. So what I did here is like I already showed you this table before, but now the focus is on the risk column. It's not the rest too. So the risk column is like whether the hours working for money change or not. When more government spending is present in that state. If there is a labor leisure trade-off, then they need to work as hard than before. Then they work fewer hours. But this is what I found here. This is not what I found here. This is I found like the impact actually positive, of it insignificant. But I don't find any like a negative result here. So then, as I said before, in the context of innovation, there are 2 other like implications regarding the labor leisure trade-off. The first one is the quantity dollar. This should generate fewer patents. The second is like the patent quality should decline when the more government spending is present, if they trade off labor leisure. So I found like a result here. So like you can see the number of patent per $90 million is rather negligible, and even the patent quality that doesn't change as well. So yeah, this is like the last channel. So I think, I'm going to finish a little bit earlier, but, this is like the conclusion. So if you want, I have several backup slides. I can talk about that as well. So, but it's like the conclusion is like using the NBER patent database and the HPS inventor database, and using Senate Committee Chairman turnover as an instrument for government spending. So iPhone firms located in states with increasing government spending experience significant reductions in innovation output as measured by number of patents and number of citations. Then the above reduction in innovation output is mainly concentrated in industries that need more labor input to conduct R&D and in states with lower employment rate. So regarding the channel of the mechanism that may cause corporate innovation output decline from the strongest support for the notion that there is a reallocation of resources from innovative to non-innovative activities. So I think this is pretty much my paper. So I think it was just, oh, go ahead. Yeah.
Are the innovation outputs conserved across the country when a shock occurs?
Sorry, so our innovation?
When there's a Senate committee
Yeah.
shock, and you observe a reaction in the state, right?
Yeah.
Is the innovation output conserved throughout the whole country?
Oh, probably not. I think it's just a reallocation. I think the probably here is like better, right? So this is what I show here is like when the senator, when they relinquish a chairmanship, what happens? So you see an increase. So basically, it's just like shift innovation from one state to another. So the overall, I don't think that there is like a decline in the overall amount of patent in the state, all across the country.
So it would be, like they say, the country as a whole, it's conserved, is what you're saying? The same innovation output?
Yeah, right.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
So you're just shifting from one country, or one state to another state?
Yes, that's my point. Okay, good.
I don't understand why a company, any company, who has made a decision to invest a certain amount per period into innovation, when there are increased production opportunities available to them, why they would shift resources from innovation to production. Because obviously, at the front end, they believe the investments in innovation were positive NPV investments. And that wouldn't change. So why wouldn't companies rather expand both production and maintain innovation? Unless the issue is one that people who do innovation are in such short supply. And if they are in such short supply, are these the people who actually can help with expanding production?
Well, and actually, I think it is. Actually, what I show here is like when the labor resource is more scarce, then there's then the effect is much stronger. So I think in order to produce the production output, then you need to hire, right? You need to hire different people. And the second question, I think in NSF they have a survey. I think they found 40% of the R&D spend, R&D wages is paid to the supporting staff, not like the scientists and engineers. For those, I think they're very easily to be reallocated from one to another, right? Yeah. Okay.
I don't understand why they don't expand.
Well, if you want to expand, then you need the labor input, right? So you don't have that input, right? And even the R&D is positive NPV, you need to relate that to the NPV of production, right? Probably production is even higher, then you just choose one over the other.
Actually, I wouldn't agree to that at all.
No.
Because positive NPV is positive NPV, because then you make this assumption that all these firms are capital constrained.
No, they're not capital constrained. I think they're labor constrained. That's what I think. Yeah. Okay.
This slide, can you explain what it is when you say relinquishment shock? What is the relinquishment shock?
It means once the relinquishes chairmanship.
The old chairman, the outgoing chairman.
Yes. So once probably there is a chairman in Kentucky, then now he he's not a chairman anymore.
Right?
Yeah.
And is this the effect on Kentucky? Because,
Yeah, this is the fact on Kentucky.
okay, so they still went up in terms of innovative, even though there was, I mean, the fact that the Kentucky chair is leaving, presumably there's less spending,
Yeah.
less government spending in
Yeah.
Kentucky.
Yeah.
So that would imply that it goes up. Okay, so
Yeah,
it goes up.
yeah, that's what I thought.
Pretty odd.
I just have a real quick suggestion. I think it will be tremendous help to sell your paper if you can find some news coverage or a specific example to support your story. To say, for this group of company, which is their cover of company, you know, this is what happened, and then this is what I think they have news coverage.
Yeah. I
That would be
think
tremendous help.
most of the news coverage is concentrated, let me see. It concentrated here, not here. It's concentrated, their sales go up, their hourly goes up, then their employment goes up. It's concentrated in that regard, not like in this part. You know, it's like generally they don't think like, you know, having more money from the federal government is a bad thing, right? They don't think in that way. Even news, right? Okay, but you know, I don't have any like anecdotal evidence on top of my head, like you know, the news cover like their money expenditure declines.
So maybe focus on like pharmaceutical company because they rely on R&D more than other type of industries.
Yeah. I would try to look at to find some like anecdotal evidence. So, okay, go ahead.
So if you're looking at their companies realizing an increase in revenue or something like that as a result of the shock, are you looking at where the revenue is coming from? Is it in the state where the extra spending is occurring?
Yeah. That's because here it's I don't think like I can separate like their sales like in one state versus the other. So I think it's a good point to look at like their actual like ROA or sales within that state. So, but this is from CompuStat. I think if they operate like multiple states, then it just shows up here. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, sure.
Naive question?
Yeah, don't worry.
But here you use a 1 year lag variable random regression, but you said on average, it usually takes maybe more than 2 years for a patent from filing to granting.
Yeah, this
Why
is
would you use a bigger longer?
Wait, this is all the filing year. This is not like a granting year of the patent. It's like when, this year you file a patent, and then 3 years later, you got granted. Then the year is this year. It's not like 3 years later.
How about innovation? Because only God knows how long that's innovation.
Well, yeah, actually, I think like Josh Lerner has a paper. He shows, like actually the R&D expenditure, and the innovate and the patent happens in the same year. So on average, it's like once you put down the the R&D expenditure, then people start to file the patent. Yeah.
And also for the instrument, because you use kind of a political change in the instrument for government spending.
Yeah.
I'm wondering how can you rule out maybe another story, which is this is due to the political uncertainty because the leadership change, right? If the leadership changes too often, probably it will lower the productivity for everyone.
Yeah, I think this is like the chairmanship, but I think I got some other like alternative explanations. Like this is not government spending; this is a political power. So when you have like a very powerful senator from in Washington D.C., then the firms they don't work. They don't care about that long term. They just go ahead.
Have you looked at to measure productivity? We've got the one side, think about productivity as goods and service per hour worked. There's actually a gain in workers are being pulled from R&D or whatever. Have you looked at whether there's a corresponding movement in that?
Productivity? I have to look at that. Yeah, I think it's a good point actually. I need to like find like probably like I find like in the R&D part if it goes down, then it's good to find like more evidence on the other part, right? Yeah.
Have you given some consideration, look at like our sub-samples for certain group, for like companies, certain states, they're probably more sensitive than others. to the shock?
Yeah, so
Like, company headquartered in DC, they choose DC as a headquarter for a reason, right?
right, but I don't think they just reallocate their headquarters in the center like it's a redefinition their chairmanship. Yeah, but I agree. It's like I think most likely in the news the reallocation decision for headquarters has nothing to do with like politics. It's mainly like due to merger acquisitions or due to closer to their customer, closer to their supplier, that kind of thing. Yeah, I agree. It's like some heterogeneity among different states. I need to explore that. Yeah.
I'd like to thank everybody for their comments and their concerns and their suggestions, and Mr. Pond for coming out of his presentation. But I have to get into the dean's office, so.
Okay.
That's probably not a good place to be late. So.
Yeah.